The Milwaukee Bucks have been the league's best defense so far this season. Now, granted, that's only through 2 games, but even still, they held the Philadelphia 76ers to only 88 points in their season opener. Perhaps even more impressive is that they managed to hold Joel Embiid to 6 of 21 shooting, and they forced him into committing 4 turnovers. Their approach on the defensive end was executed to perfection to neutralize his ability to impact the game with his scoring, instead forcing James Harden to have to brunt the scoring load and the Sixers to rely heavily on knocking down difficult shots. So let's see how they did it. They would start the game trying to get Embiid going from the mid-range. Embiid's bread and butter is getting the pass on the short roll so he can step into a pull-up mid-range. With Lopez angled to guard Harden's drive, Embiid gets exactly what he wants and he knocks down the shot. The Sixers followed it up with another possession, getting it to Embiid in one of his favorite spots on the left side elbow, and Lopez allows him time to get going downhill, and he's going to get the layup to fall. Now, at this point, the Bucks are going to make an adjustment. Brook Lopez is going to move into a deep drop to guard both the elbows to try and deny Embiid post-entry passes in his sweet spots. Maxey swings it to Harden, who passes it back to Embiid up top, and they give up an open 3-point attempt as opposed to letting him get inside the arc to get hot from the mid-range or in the post. The 76ers would make some questionable decisions on the defensive end, like hedging on screens, which opens up a pass for Holiday to Lopez, who capitalizes on the 3-point opportunity. Lopez continued to operate in a deep drop on the defensive end, with Holiday shading Harden into the coverage while blocking off the pass to Embiid at the elbow, and Harden misses on the pull-up. Throughout the game, the Bucks were determined to not let Embiid get good looks and get hot, so they set up again with Lopez in drop coverage, and Giannis is going to have 1 foot in the paint to provide help on any potential pick and roll. Harden's going to take advantage of it though, and he sends it to PJ in the corner for the 3. The Bucks stayed committed to the drop coverage, and when Lopez bites on the pump fake, he pivots to recover with Holiday sliding over to tag him and throw him off. Holiday catches him off guard, and the Bucks force the turnover. On this pick and roll, Maxey is now the ball handler instead of Harden. Javon Carter shades him into Lopez while still denying the entry pass to Embiid on the short roll, resulting in Maxey having to try and finish over Lopez, who forces the miss. On the right side post up, Lopez is on Embiid. Lopez denies the potential drop step on the right, and he anticipates Embiid's attempt to get into the fall-away mid-range, disrupting him and preventing the bucket. Another thing that Milwaukee made a point of emphasis was to double Embiid in the post whenever they could, something that's proven to cause him a lot of problems in the past because Embiid has difficulty passing out of double teams and making quick decisions. The Bucks trap Maxey up top, leaving Embiid near the low post. Giannis is going to be there to meet him, and Portis comes over to offer the double team. Embiid tries to turn around towards the elbow, but Portis is glued to him, and he manages to force the miss. Now, at this point, Lopez is going to go to the bench. We're going to see what happens when Embiid is allowed to get to his spots on the short roll. Giannis is in drop coverage still, but not as deep as Brook Lopez was. Embiid's going to get to his favorite spot on the left side elbow, and Embiid gets him on the rip through to get to the free throw line, which is something that we see Embiid do all the time. Here, Ibaka is now on Embiid, with De'Anthony Melton as the ball handler. The Sixers bench unit struggled to get it to Embiid in the high post, and Melton looks off of him, and it results in Matthews getting the block and forcing the turnover. On this play, Maxey manages to get it to Embiid at the nail, but Ibaka does a great job of anticipating his next move, keeping a hand up and not biting prematurely on the pump fake, and Embiid gives him too much time to get up close, allowing Ibaka to force the miss. Now, Embiid's going to go to the bench, and the Sixers started moving the ball and focusing a lot more on driving and kicking, which opened up chances like this one for the corner 3. They tried to stay with the drop coverage, but the Sixers were starting to make them pay by getting into the paint for floaters. But on the offensive end, the Bucks were still able to capitalize on these bench lineups, taking advantage of some undisciplined defense here, and when the help slides over on Holiday, he kicks it out to Carter for the corner 3. The Bucks were also going to change their approach to guarding the pick and roll, switching to a soft hedge and recover instead of the drop coverage that they were using when Lopez was in the game. They also changed things up to try and force the Sixers to live and die by the 3 after seeing how they were getting hurt on the interior. Mike Budenholzer subs Giannis back into the game, and Giannis immediately goes to work against the bench unit, attacking the basket against weak defense to get the finish. Milwaukee also wanted to try and get the ball out of James Harden's hands and forcing non-ball handlers to try and make plays. Harden passes it to House, who's coming off the screen in the corner, but Jevon Carter's defense forces him to make a bad pass to Harden with less than 5 seconds on the clock, and it goes out of bounds, resulting in a turnover. At this point, Embiid's going to come back in the game. The Sixers tried once again to get him going down low, but Lopez is fully prepared for it, and he already has a hand in Embiid's face before he even raises the ball, forcing Embiid to miss short off of the front of the rim. Again, they're going to feed Embiid in the post, but Lopez is tight on him, and Holiday slides over to make him uncomfortable on a double team, and his pass to Niang up top leads to a miss. They used Giannis and Brook Lopez together down low to double Embiid throughout the game, and it's something that Embiid really struggled against. But once again, we see what happens when you give Embiid enough time in the mid-post, as he manages to knock down the jumper over Brook Lopez. The Bucks made the necessary adjustments to deny him his spots again, cutting off the pass to the left side elbow, forcing Maxey to put up a tough runner. Here, the Bucks have Grayson Allen guarding Tobias Harris on the post-up. Harris capitalizes on the mismatch, but the Bucks send Lopez and Giannis over, with Lopez getting the nice block off the weak side help. They're going to throw a double team at Embiid again with Lopez and Giannis makes him uncomfortable enough to force another miss. Now, the Sixers on the defensive end were going to start hedging screens, which allowed the Bucks to get into some easy pick and rolls between Jrue Holiday and Brook Lopez. Now here we can see how drop coverage has its disadvantages. The Sixers run this left side wing pick and roll with Embiid cutting to the left side post. Giannis and Lopez are both playing in drop, but there seems to be some confusion on who's supposed to be guarding Harden, and Harden knocks down the floater as a result. At this point, Embiid wasn't having a ton of luck on mid-range shots, so he would start to get more aggressive attacking the basket to either score or get to the line or draw the and one, but Lopez stayed disciplined and he gets the block. The Sixers had been countering the drop coverage in different ways throughout the game, but they would throw something new at Milwaukee, trying this pass to Embiid at the elbow, with Harris making a backdoor cut for Embiid to lob it up to him for the finish. Now, as I've mentioned, they wanted to get Embiid going down low to get him to the line, so Lopez was having to be a little bit more diligent against him in one-on-one situations. Lopez anticipates the spin move, forcing Embiid to dribble off his knee and turn it over. The Sixers go to this empty corner pick and roll with Harris and Embiid, but Lopez doesn't even bother to stay with Embiid, instead waiting in case Portis gets beat, and Harris puts up the contested pull-up for the miss. Lopez goes to the bench, so Giannis is now going to be used as the drop defender. Maxey takes the screen and heads downhill, but Giannis just stays in the paint and he forces the miss at the rim. They go back to trapping Embiid to make him uncomfortable, with 3 defenders applying pressure on him in the paint, and he turns it over. They stick with this mentality, with Hill coming over to help and make Embiid speed up his process as the shot clock starts to dwindle down, and they force him into a miss. The interesting thing, though, is that the second Joel Embiid goes to the bench, the Bucks changed their defensive approach entirely, going back to hedging the screens, leaving Harrell wide open as he cuts to the paint, just playing man-to-man defense against the non-Embiid and Harden lineups. They stay with it when Harden comes back in, with Portis hedging while Harrell rolls, and the Sixers manage to generate a good look in the corner that just doesn't go down. On the other side of the floor, the Bucks are still managing to hold the Sixers off despite some late-game heroics from James Harden, like on this sequence where Jrue gets it to Giannis on the roll, where he then passes to Allen in the corner. Allen attacks the closeout, and with Harrell providing help on Allen's drive, Giannis cuts to the basket and receives the ball for the easy dunk. They stay with this hedge approach for screens on the other end of the floor, forcing Harden to continue to carry their offense by having to knock down difficult shots. But then the second that Joel Embiid comes back in, they throw Lopez back on the floor and switch back to drop coverage. And even though Harden is knocking down a lot of mid-range jumpers and floaters, they do not want to let Embiid get hot or get to the line. You can see just how impactful drop coverage is for disrupting the Sixers' offense. With Lopez camped out near the elbow, they're not even trying to drive into the lane or send Embiid on the roll. When the game got close in the fourth, they didn't deviate from their plan, and Holiday was able to get the steal on Harden when he tries to get it to Embiid at the elbow on the roll. Now, with the game tied, you can see that Lopez is no longer dropped as deep as he was into the paint, instead playing man-to-man on Embiid as Embiid looks for the entry pass. When he tries to drive, Giannis comes over to double him, but Harden is able to cut to the mid-range to knock down the bucket and take the lead. The Bucks answered back on the other end, capitalizing on some pretty abysmal defense from the Sixers, with Grayson Allen cutting into the paint for Holiday to find him for the layup to tie the game. At this point, the Sixers wanted to get the ball into Embiid's hands, despite Harden having a pretty hot night shooting from the field. And Lopez actually doesn't play Joel Embiid too tight here, I would imagine for the sake of not trying to foul him or risking an and-one opportunity. They start to get into the foul game for the next couple of possessions, and the Sixers had the chance to tie it up with 9 seconds, but they stick Holiday on Harden and let him try to get to the rim and draw the foul, but the Sixers really can't make anything happen, and Grayson Allen would go on to ice the game at the free throw line. The Bucks had an approach on the defensive end that was incredibly disciplined and orchestrated to negate Philadelphia's strengths. They made necessary adjustments whenever the Sixers made a lineup change, and although it allowed James Harden to have a strong night, it prevented Embiid from having one as well, and even more so, it prevented the Sixers from coming out with a win. If you guys enjoyed this video and you want to see more content like this, please consider subscribing and leaving a like. That's the #1 way to support me and help me continue making content. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.